I turned pale when saw terrible photos of my cheating wife. I and my wife are both 49 years old, we live in South America. I was searching online for a place to vent my frustration, especially with people that have been through the same thing that I am currently going through. I just found out that my wife of 28 years was cheating on me with a 24-year-old. I wonder how often this happens because, if my neighbor hadn't confided in me, I wouldn't have known, and she would continue the affair till this day. We have a 19-year-old boy and a 21-year-old girl, they both are in college and not living with us. We live in an affluent area. I don't consider myself wealthy, but I came from money, I have a modest job and so is my wife. She works as a manager for a textile company and has some people reporting under her, most of them are in their 20s. 2 weeks ago, I had the rug swept from underneath me. It was Friday, I was just pulled into my driveway coming back from work, when my next-door neighbor walked up to me and told me that he would like to invite me to his house to watch a soccer game tomorrow, and there was something important he wanted to share with me. I thought that was strange considering that me and him weren't a particularly close friends. I mean, we have hanged out a couple of times during neighborhood events, and we have always said hello to each other and had small talk when we cross paths. He is about my age, but his kids are much younger than mine. He is one of those weird guys who jogs around every morning like they are training for a marathon. I and my wife used to make fun of him because he has an outfit for everything. 1 minute is running with matching outfits and the next day, he is fully kit on his cyclist outfit exercising like he is training for Tour de France. I was anxious because I didn't know what he had in mind. I assume that he is trying to sell me something because I know he is in sales, or maybe some investment he wanted me on. So, the following day was a Saturday. I normally have nothing to do in the evenings besides exercising when I am motivated. So, I decided to take up on my neighbor's offer. He welcomed me to his home. The game was a European Premier League, which I normally don't follow. I sat on his couch, he already has a beer ready for me, it was just me and him. His wife and kids weren't home. A few minutes into the game, he changed the topic and told me that he wanted to tell me something that might offend me, but he felt like as a man he had to tell me. I was thinking, well, here comes the pitch. Then he shows me multiple shocking photos on his phone. The pictures were of my wife and a young man holding hands in a shopping mall. He showed me 5 pictures from different angles. He told me that he took the photos 3 weeks ago while he was shopping with his kids. At first, he didn't want to share them with me. 1, because we are not close. 2, he felt like it was none of his business. 3, he didn't know the nature of my relationship with my wife. However, over time he felt the need to tell me and finds it hard to greet me every time he sees me knowing that my wife may be having an affair with another man. At first, I felt a range of emotion. I felt really confused, ashamed, and then angry toward my neighbor because I thought he was pulling a prank on me, but he was dead serious, and the pictures was clearly my wife. I must have stared at the pictures for minutes trying to find an explanation to defend myself from this embarrassment as if to maintain the frame of macho in front of my neighbor, but the mask came off. I couldn't control myself, the evidence was clear, my wife is having an affair with a younger man. I didn't want to believe it. I thought that there must have been some misunderstanding. I didn't pick up on any signs that my wife could have possibly been cheating. This word doesn't feel like enough on me. But the evidence is clear. I broke down and cried in front of my neighbor, in my neighbor's house. He tried to console me by saying that he had been through the same thing as well, and I sobbed like a baby in front of him. It was so embarrassing looking back. I was still in my neighbor's house when my wife came back home. I wasn't sure where she went that Saturday evening, but I remember she told me earlier that she went out to see some friends. Which I now know was a lie. My neighbor forwarded me the incriminating pictures to my phone. When I was about to leave his house, he insisted that he will follow me to my house to make sure I don't do anything that I would regret. Much to my objection, but he followed me anyway. Looking back, he wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything to offend her because he saw that I was full of rage. I walked out of the neighbor's house with him behind me. I wasn't really concerned about him following me at that point because I was in such a hurry to confront my wife. She was in the kitchen when I came through the garage door. I called her name and showed her the pictures on my phone. I asked her who the man is that she is holding hands with. She looked shocked, staring back and forth at me, and the neighbor behind me asked what was going on. I told her to answer the effing question. I have never been offensive towards my wife, but I am not sure it didn't come across my mind at that point. She couldn't deny the pictures, how could she? It was clearly her. I had the phone 2 inches from her face and repeatedly asked her who she was holding hands with. I must have been really imposing because my neighbor tried to hold me back. After some hesitation, she tried to explain herself. She said it was a 24-year-old direct report that is working for her. She told me how she was sorry for everything. I didn't want to hear it. I told her to pack a bag and to get out of my house. That was a few days ago. I haven't seen her since that day, though my neighbor comes around every once in a while to check on me. I am an introvert and a private person at first. I didn't appreciate his interference, but without him, I would have been clueless and my wayward wife would have continued the affair till this day, and for that, words can't explain how much I appreciate him. I prefer not to have many friends, but I have a therapist with whom I share my personal things. Our children still don't know anything. I still haven't gone to my therapist. I only leave the house to go to work. I haven't had a proper meal or a good night's rest in 2 weeks. I spend most of my day drinking and crying. What do I do? Do I ask for a divorce? Do I try to save my marriage? Do I reach out to my wife? It is still hurting more than anything I've ever felt, but it helps to know that there are people here who went through the same thing. I know that I shouldn't be drinking, but sometimes it feels like it's the only way to numb the pain. My wife texts and calls me almost every day at the same time, but I have yet to pick up my phone to listen or read what she has to say. I'm not sure if I'm ready to hear her side of the story. She is currently staying at her parents' house. Our children live in another state. I haven't heard from them since before I found out about the affair, and apparently my wife hasn't reached out to them either. I have called my family and told them what has happened. My neighbor invited me for a run this morning and it helps relieve the stress. I see him as a friend now, so much familiarity between us like I have known him for years. I'm also going to see my therapist tomorrow. I have been jogging with my neighbor as much as I could. He doesn't talk about my wife during the run. He is really helping me get my mind off of thinking about it. But it's hard not to, mostly because I just feel so conflicted. Part of me wants to try and reconcile, but I'm not sure if my wife is even the same person I married anymore. It still feels so surreal. I never thought I'd have to contact an attorney, or that I'd have to worry about STDs from my wife. I thought I'd post a little update on where I am this morning. I told my family what happened the morning after I found out. My parents are heartbroken. I read through the texts that my wife has been sending me since D-Day. They are all her proclaiming her love for me, saying how sorry she is for what she's done, begging me to take her back. I'm still not sure what to make of all of it. If she really does mean all of that, why did she go and betray me the way she did? My children still don't know, but they are both done with college for this semester and should be home in a few days. I'm still not sure of how I should break the news to them. I have an appointment with my therapist today and I am going to schedule a doctor's appointment and talk to a divorce lawyer. I'm not sure that a divorce is what I want, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have that covered for the future. Got back from my appointment with my therapist. Things are still confusing, but he and this community have pointed me in the direction that I should take now. My therapist doesn't have experience dealing with cheating trauma, but he has indicated to me one that does. I'll schedule an appointment with them. He has given me some advice on the next few steps. He told me to drop the drink and to start exercising. He also told me to take my time in confronting my wayward wife in person, that I need to make sure I'm ready to be in the same environment as she is. Now, to address some questions that I have received. My wayward wife's affair partner is not married. He started working with her last year. He is 24, barely older than our daughter. My neighbor caught them holding hands one day when they were at the mall and took some pictures. This morning, I sent her a text, telling her some things that I expected from her. I told her that I'm still not sure of what course of action I want to take, but that there are some things I expect if reconciliation is to even be a possibility. I told her that we both need to be tested for STDs, that she is to break up and stop all contact with AP, and that she needs to tell me everything that they did together. I still haven't heard back from her. Right now, I'm considering whether or not I should go confront my wife to hear what she has to say. She has been staying at her parents' house. My wife has replied to me after I sent her text making all of those demands: the written timeline, access to all her devices and social media, having no contact with her affair partner, the STD screening, and her quitting her job. She has agreed to everything. I still plan on seeing a few attorneys, just in case. Her parents already know. They learned about it the same day that I did. She is staying at their place. What I'm not sure about is confirming her written timeline with a polygraph test. I've always heard those things are incredibly unreliable, and I wouldn't even know where to look for one where I live. Yesterday was the first day since D-Day that I saw my wife in person. After I got home from work, my brother and I went to her parents' house where she is still staying. It wasn't easy being around her, but after listening to this community's advice, I figured that there were some things that needed to be said and established in person, rather than through text and phone calls. The first thing that she did when she saw me was broken into tears and try to hug me. I put a stop to that and told her that touching her was the last thing I want right now. She looked hurt. She kept telling me how much she regrets her mistake, how much she loves me, and that things with her affair partner were just act. I called her out on her bullcrap and told her that I wasn't there to hear her excuses. I told her I'm going to see a divorce attorney next week so that I know what my options are. I then reiterated all the steps I want her to do if I am to consider reconciliation with her. I had her send a no-contact text to her affair partner right there in front of me and tell me all of her social media passwords. She also handed her phone over to me and allowed me to take screenshots of all texts she's sent her affair partner and allowed me to take it home to check for deleted messages. It wasn't easy being around her. Every time she opened her mouth to say something, I wanted to yell at her. Now, as for what I am doing about my healing. I have dropped the drinking and started exercising. My neighbor and I go out running in the morning. I have been reading as much as I can get my hands on. Food is still unappealing, but I have started to eat more than what I was eating last week. She has already quit her job. She showed me her letter of resignation and I called her workplace to make sure she was telling the truth. She'll still have to work there for a month. Update. My wayward wife has dropped by and given me her written timeline of events since the day she met her AP. I haven't had the time to read through it in full detail, I've just skimmed it for now. I'm honestly having to build up the courage to read what she has written. Just reading through the first couple of pages filled my head with these images of them together. I did find a place where we can get the polygraph test done relatively nearby. I'm going to set a date for us both to go and confront her with the timeline. Should I let her come back to the house if she passes the test? I'm thinking that if she does, I'll allow her to come back, but not sleep in the same room as me. I'd still give it a few months to see what I want to do and what she does that might make me think reconciliation is viable. I've gone through her phone messages and social media, which also wasn't easy and made me feel sick to my stomach. I've seen that she also sent a no-contact message to her affair partner on D-Day in addition to the one that I had her send yesterday, so I guess yesterday I was only having her reinforce that. I also used a few programs to check for deleted messages. Didn't find any, but I'm not tech savvy, so I'm going to ask her if she did delete any when we do the polygraph test. I and my wayward wife got tested for STDs and we passed. Right now, I feel like an emotional pinball bouncing from one emotion to the next. 1 minute I'm a sobbing mess, the next I'm shaking with rage, and then I'm going on about my day as if nothing happened. If I don't have anything to occupy myself with, my head gets filled with these images of them being together. An empty mind is the devil's workshop. A month ago I would have said that my wife could never lie to me. But obviously, a month ago she was having her affair and, as has been pointed out to me many times since I've found this forum and on the resources that I have found, cheaters lie. I used to be able to trust everything she said without question, now I'm not so sure. I have been reading through the timeline. It's been rough. I told her that she needed to tell me everything, what she was feeling, how they would flirt, the first time they kissed, what they did when they were together. She didn't hold back on the details. I've had to take breaks every few minutes. I've only made halfway through what she has written and there is still so much. My wife has told them the reason why she's quitting. Apparently, he's lost his job. As of today, I am 3 weeks out from D-Day. I have spoken to a few divorce attorneys and now I know what my options are in case I want to follow a divorce route. Here in my country, if infidelity is the reason for a divorce, the cheating spouse loses the right to alimony, so that shouldn't prove to be too big of an issue. I don't know how it works in other parts of the world, but here there are different ways that a couple's assets could be split depending on how they got married. My wife and I were married under full separation of goods. That means that everything we own is owned either by me or her, so if we do get divorced, we'll already know what each person gets. The house is registered in my name, so she wouldn't get that. There are a few different ways on how the divorce could happen, and depend on how my wayward wife reacts to it, it could take from a week to 2 years. In addition to a divorce, I could also sue my wayward wife and her affair partner for moral hurts. I'm still not sure if that's the route I want to take, but at least now I know my options. As for everything else that has been going on, my daughter is coming home today. She still doesn't know about her mother's affair, but I have already texted her and warned her that her mother is staying at her grandparents' house. I told her that something happened and that I wanted to tell her what it is in person. The last 2 days have been the hardest since D-Day. Both my daughter and my son now know about their mother's affair. My daughter was the first to come home from college. She told me that she tried contacting her mother, but apparently, she wouldn't tell her anything other than that she did something horrible. I sat down with my daughter when she arrived and explained to her everything that I knew, how her mother had an affair with a subordinate young enough to be her son, and how our neighbor captured her on camera holding hands with the affair partner. She was as shocked as I was the day that I found out. We held each other and cried together. She asked me what I wanted to do, and I said that I didn't know yet. I told her I have spoken with a divorce attorney, but that I'm still trying to figure out what to do next. My son came home yesterday, and I think he took it harder than his sister. I sat down with him and explained everything the same way that I did with his sister. He blew up. He started screaming and calling his mother names. That hurt more than I thought it would. I don't want my children to lose their mother, even after what she has done. I told him that he has every right to be angry with her, but that I don't want him referring to her that way ever again. As of today, they are both staying home with me and helping me out around the house. My wife has tried to contact them, but they have ignored her calls and she hasn't insisted on it. Update. I want my family back. The past month has been by far the worst of my life, and I have found some amazing support here. I have been going out every morning before work to jog through my neighborhood. I have started to eat full meals again and go to my new therapist. I miss my old therapist and the relationship that I had built with him, but so far, my new therapist has been a tremendous help in navigating through these emotions. My daughter went to see her mother. She is still angry with her, but she says that she doesn't want to cut contact with her. My son has been hurt the most, I think. He thinks I'm an idiot for not having filed for divorce yet, says that he doesn't want anything to do with his mother and that he'll be happy if she dies. I told him not to call her names even though she has done a terrible thing, she is still his mom, but he keeps saying that my therapist is filling my head with junk and that a real man would have divorced her already. I don't recognize him at all. It's hard to accept that all this new behavior is just from the shock of the discovery and that it wasn't there already, but I truly never thought that my son would turn into this kind of man. My son is now legally an adult. I cannot make him do anything, but I am going to encourage him to seek individual counseling along with me and his sister, and I am going to put my foot down when I feel that he is being disrespectful to me or to his mom. Tomorrow I'll go and see her and have her read the timeline she has written in front of me. I also have a polygraph test scheduled for next Saturday. I'm still weighing my options, and I think these next 2 steps can help me make a decision. In her timeline, she describes how he has given her attention and how she found it thrilling. I haven't yet had a proper discussion with my wife to learn exactly what was going through her head besides what she has written down, but if I take her at her word, her affair partner made her feel young and having an illicit affair excited her. Seeing her wasn't the hardest part. I have seen her a few times since D-Day. What was tough was sitting through her reading the timeline. There were times when I was crying, other that I was shaking with rage. I had to tell her to stop a few times because it was becoming too much, and I needed a few minutes to process. She cried through the whole thing, but I'm not sure how honest those tears were. She didn't protest or try to skip anything. She read through the whole thing. Whenever I asked for more details, she would give them to me. It took us about 4 hours to get through it. By the end, I was emotionally exhausted, and it looked like she was too. I told her that we will go through these questions again when we do the polygraph test. Again, she didn't protest. It looks like she's being sincere, but I don't know whether I believe her or not. I am still going to therapy and going out running every morning. Sometimes it's hard to keep the images and dark thoughts from overwhelming me, but I am in a much better place now than I was the days after D-Day. I am still very much on the fence about what I want to do going forward. My wife has started to see a therapist and we are doing the polygraph test tomorrow, so maybe I'll be able to make my decision then. I've written down a few questions that I want to ask her tomorrow, questions like: have you been completely honest with me since I've found out about your affair? Is the timeline you've written a complete and truthful retelling of events? Have you had any other affairs in the years we've been married? Did you delete any emails or messages on your phone and social media between you and your AP that I haven't seen? Update. I picked up my wife from her parents' house on Saturday. We didn't talk much on the ride, but I could tell that she was uncomfortable just by her body language. When we got there and were told to wait for the examiner, she asked me if I was sure this was something I wanted to do. I said yes. She was hooked up to the machine for about 20 minutes and answered no to every question that I had. I then drove her home and dropped her off at her parents' again. We didn't talk much on the way home either. I was just too tired to revisit what we had already talked about regarding her timeline. She did ask me what I wanted to do. I was honest and told her that I didn't know yet. The results arrived on Monday. Apparently, she was being truthful. I thought that this would help me decide, but I'm still at a loss. I still don't know whether to give our marriage a chance or if I should just go ahead and divorce her. I want our old life, but she hurt me so much. She is going to therapy. Our daughter went to see her a couple of times and she has gone to see her therapist. I don't know if they specialize in infidelity. She did indeed answer yes to the first 2 questions. My son is lashing out at his mom. He is really taking this hard, and it worries me. He is upset with me for not divorcing his mom. Its reaction is really offhand, especially since he was close to him before this. I don't know if infidelity has impacted him in his personal relationship, or maybe culturally or environmental factors. Every time I tried to talk to him about his reaction, he has stonewalled me. He refuses to listen to me, to talk to me about what he's feeling, and to go to therapy to address his pain. We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Reader comment: truth be told, he sees your inability to act as a weakness. Perhaps he expects you to react as a man who does not tolerate his wife being used as a toy by a younger buck. The truth is, this young stud got to enjoy your wife and did not have to put up the baggage that comes with marriage after so many years. Knowing what I know about affairs, you could say he probably got to have his way with her. Your son is looking to see his dad take decisive action. Simple as that. OP reply: I'd say having my wife leave the home and contacting a divorce attorney was decisive action. What comes next is not his decision to make. I will eventually make that decision. He's not the one that decides what is the best course of action that I have to take for my life. I am the only person that can decide what's the best course of action going forward. Reader comment: but a half hour on a park bench with a cup of coffee just to see what, if any, progress is being made might help you clarify your thoughts. OP reply: I think I can do that, thank you for the suggestion. It's been almost a month since my last update here and things are not going well for my relationship. She has done everything that I ask, but I can't get the thought of her deceiving me and spreading her legs for another man. Part of me wants reconciliation, but part of me knows that I will never get over her infidelity. I took a reader's advice and started having a weekly meeting with her, mostly in public places like parks and restaurants. Both my kids have now returned to college and are no longer in the house. My daughter is trying to work on her relationship with her mother while my son wants nothing to do with her. I met with my wife every week to see what progress she's making on her own. She is still going to therapy to try and find out why she did what she did. She claims that she doesn't know why, but I'm not sure that I buy that. She did spend 9 months having an affair. That's a lot of time doing something you're not sure why you're doing it. What did come as a pleasant surprise is that apparently her therapist recommended that she read Not Just Friends by Shirley Glass. We did discuss the book some and she seems to be making progress, but we'll see how that goes. She did quit her job and her AP lost his when she told them the reason as to why she was quitting. I have checked her phone and her email a few times. Her AP is still blocked and the last messages she has sent him were no contact messages. Every time we met up this last month to discuss what has happened and what she's doing now, she has told me that she is indeed remorseful, but I can't help but think that she was only remorseful that she got caught. She said that she is going to individual counseling to try and find out why she allowed herself to have an affair, and she also cut contact with former friends that were apparently enabling her behavior, which is another story in of its own. She's also told me that I can come to her if I feel like I need to vent or ask her something. There were a few times during our conversations when I became triggered and snapped at her. At first, I think she was shocked to see me like that, and the first few times she tried to walk back on the statements that triggered me, but now when it happens, she just listens and allows me to vent. We were talking about why she had an affair and what her feelings about it were while she was having it. She said that during the affair she kept justifying it as getting the closeness she wasn't getting at home. Now she says that she realizes that she was doing it because she wasn't the one putting in the work at home. In the months prior to her affair, she had started focusing on her job, and what little free time she had was spent with friends, which left little time for her to spend with me. She says that she was so self-absorbed during that time that she perceived the drop in closeness between us as something that was my fault. She apologized and said that she knows how wrong that was, that she takes full responsibility for her choices. She also said that even if it had indeed been my fault, she should have said something before looking for gratification outside of our marriage. Not sure how I should take all of that. I guess I just wanted to share it with other people for now. Reader comment: did she explain why it was that she was prepared to be in a marriage with you that was devoid of closeness, as that is something that most spouses are not prepared to accept? Or how about how she was able to feel no guilt while she was conducting her affair? Has she told you why exactly the vows you made when you got married meant so little to her? OP reply: she says that it didn't just happen one day. Rather, it was a buildup of frustration over several months of frustration. Apparently, she had been aware of her affair partner's attraction to her for months. He had in the past made flirtatious comments towards her, and with all that frustration, she eventually started reciprocating them. She says that in the beginning, she rationalized it by saying that it was just flirting and that it wouldn't move beyond that. Then when it did go beyond that, she did feel guilty, but she rationalized it by saying that she was getting the fulfillment she wasn't getting from me and that I should have realized something was wrong when we started having love less frequently without her having to tell me anything. According to her, during that time she thought that I was to blame for her frustration, so she became bitter. She told me that she realizes how twisted those rationalizations were and that she was being selfish and lazy by not voicing her concerns earlier. She has told me on more than one occasion that if I need someone to talk to, that I can come to her. I have sat down with her more than once and told her how I felt when I found out about the affair, what the 2 months away from her were like, and what I think about any future with her. Each time she has sat down and patiently listened to me before apologizing at the end. I'm not really sure if there was much more that she could be doing that I would be receptive to right now. The weekly meeting we have been having only proves that I will never get past it. But we plan on continuing to see if time heal all wound. My problem is that I find it hard to trust her, and it is really difficult to fall asleep knowing that my wife sleeping next to me took me for a fool and lied to me for 9 months. I guess I am still holding on because I have nostalgia on how my family once was, and I want to at least be sure that at least I gave reconciliation a chance. Reader comment: that she got attention from an attractive young man and decided that her horniness was more important than her marriage vows. OP reply: funny. Those were almost the exact same words that she used when she described the thought process that led her to cheating. I think I'm doing a poor job of describing the conversation that we had. I have a bad habit of being economic on details when writing things that upset me or that have too many of them. Of course, I can only write about what she told me. She can still be lying, of course. She recognizes that her choice to cheat was hers alone. What she described as a lack of love connection was a situation that she herself caused. She was hanging out with friends and spending a lot of time at work. The lack of closeness, which she used to justify her affair, was caused by her not spending much time at home. She realizes that it was stupid of her to blame me for the decrease in closeness when she wasn't spending time with me. Her words, not mine. Reader comment: did she really say that, while she was conducting her affair and was rejecting your advances, she felt bitter towards you because you didn't notice the frequency of closeness decreased? OP reply: no. She said that she felt bitter before the affair. Reader comment: I'm wondering what she says to you, if anything, about how she imagines you were feeling when you discover her affair or how it felt for you while she was apart. Can she express to you that she feels the pain that she inflicted upon you? OP reply: she has actually tried to initiate a conversation like that. She began by telling me how it broke her heart to see my reaction to her reading the timeline, and that whatever pain she felt while we were apart must not have compared to the pain that I must have been feeling. I shut that conversation down before it went any further. I did not want to talk about what I was feeling. Reader comment: she knew she could sleep with you whenever she wanted. You were initiating. There was nothing lacking. OP reply: again, I feel like I'm not doing a good job of explaining things. She knows that there was nothing lacking on my end. It is what she used at the time to justify her affair to herself. She knows that her decision to cheat was her failing alone. Reader comment: she is trying to say that her emotions, which are not objective or falsifiable, are the reasons for her affair. I call bullcrap. OP reply: I'm not sure I understand this statement. Why else would she cheat if not for her feelings? Update. It's been 3 months since the affair, and she is still living with her parents. I am still running with my neighbor in the mornings and eating healthy. I feel good mentally and physically, better than I was before D-Day. I have also been reading a lot of self-improvement books and other materials that would help me come to a final decision about my marriage. She recently found another job at a company not too far from the house we used to share together. I guess she is expecting to move back in soon because our weekly meetings have been going well for her, but not me. We have been having weekly meetings at several locations, like parks and restaurants. She has done everything that I asked her to do. Sometimes I feel like I am giving her false hope, but I am really trying to build trust in her, but it has become more difficult than I anticipated. I have been struggling with forgiving her, and I thought that it would get better over time. Yesterday was our last meeting, but she wasn't aware of it until I broke the news to her. I knew before the meeting that I couldn't go on like this anymore. I wanted to free myself from constantly being reminded that she may cheat on me again if I let her in. She broke my trust and confidence in her, and no matter how many meetings we have, I don't believe that I can get over that. I felt like our relationship has run its course. We meet at a secluded park because I knew that she would cry and try to beg for me to change my mind and may cause a scene, and I wouldn't want people staring at us. I am emotionally exhausted and can't continue having this meeting. After breaking the news to her, she started crying as expected. She began to cry and beg me. I told her how difficult it was for me to make this decision, and I have tried to trust her despite all she has done to gain my trust back, but one minute when I am by myself, I will be fine, and the next minute I will be swearing at her for deceiving me for 9 months. I told her that for the sake of mine and her sanity we need to part ways. I will maintain a friendly relationship with her because she is the mother of my children, but I can't trust her or let her into my bed again. I told her that our focus should be about rebuilding the relationship between her and my son because I want my children to have a good relationship with their mom, but I am not going to force him. Regardless of what she has done, her infidelity is between me and her. My wife was still crying. She said she will continue to try to get back to me, but she respects my decision. I contacted my lawyer earlier today to finalize the divorce petition so I can serve her.